Now, what if I told you there was a philosopher who looked at centuries of thought and just decided, nope, we're asking all the wrong questions? Well, that's exactly what we're talking about today. We're diving into the work of John Dewey, a thinker who wanted to hit the reset button on philosophy itself, to completely reconstruct what it's even for.
And this really gets to the heart of Dewey's whole project. It all boils down to this one radical question. What if, instead of chasing some abstract capital T truth about the universe, philosophy became a practical tool, a method for fixing the actual real problems we face every single day? For the American philosopher John Dewey, this wasn't just some passing thought. It was his mission.
You see, Dewey looked at traditional philosophy and saw a museum of old ideas, fixed, unchanging, and totally disconnected from the messy reality of human life. He wasn't interested in adding another dusty old doctrine to the shelf. No way. His mission was revolutionary, to turn philosophy from a spectator sport into an active, hands-on discipline for making our lives better.
So how in the world was he going to pull this off? Well, Dewey's Great Reconstruction wasn't just some minor tweak. It was a complete overhaul of Western thought. And he started with the biggest question of all. What does it actually mean to be human?
Okay, this is the first huge shift. For centuries, the classical view, think Plato and Aristotle, saw humans as having this fixed essence, like a rational soul that's kind of trapped in a body. Dewey just threw that idea right out the window. He argued we aren't a thing at all. We are a process, a continuous flow of experience, driven by our hopes and desires in a world that's always changing.
And if you're gonna change your view of humanity, you have to change your view of the universe, right? The old philosophy imagined this closed world with a set, predefined order. But Dewey, who was hugely influenced by Darwin's theory of evolution, saw an open world. He saw reality where things weren't fixed, but were constantly adapting. And here's the big takeaway. If the universe is an unfinished, evolving process with no set goal, well, that means we as human beings actually have the power to help shape what it becomes.
So, if we're dynamic beings living in an open, evolving world, what does that do to the whole idea of knowledge? For Dewey, it changes literally everything. Knowledge is no longer about just passively observing the world from the sidelines. This famous quote from Francis Bacon really set the stage for what Dewey was trying to do. See, the old goal of knowledge was contemplation, just to understand the world as it is. Bacon completely flipped that on its head. The new goal of knowledge is power, the ability to actively change the world.
And here is the brilliant leap that Dewey made. He basically said, okay, if science gives us the power to control nature, why can't we use that exact same problem-solving power to fix the human condition itself? He imagined a philosophy that could actually tackle everything from poverty and war to political gridlock.
But look, a grand vision is one thing. Putting it into practice, that's another. And this brings us to Dewey's practical method. He actually developed a specific logic, a new way of thinking designed not to prove eternal truths, but to act as a toolkit for solving real-world problems.
He called it instrumental logic, and the name says it all. In this view, an idea isn't true or false because it's a perfect picture of reality. An idea is valuable if it's a useful instrument. I mean, think about it. When you say, I have an idea, what you usually mean is, I have a plan for what to do next. That's exactly what Dewey meant. An idea is just a plan for action.
And this process is pretty much how it works. His logic is basically the scientific method, but applied to all of life. You start with a problem, you come up with a hypothesis, an idea for how to solve it, you go out and test that plan in the real world, and then you see if it actually fixed the thing you were worried about. It's a constant cycle of trying, doing, and learning.
Now, I know this might sound a little abstract, but Dewey applied it everywhere, most famously in his theory of progressive education. He imagined the classroom not as a place for just memorizing facts, but as a laboratory. The goal wasn't to fill students' heads with dusty old doctrines, but to develop practical intelligence by having them actively solve problems. For Dewey, history wasn't a collection of truths to be memorized, it was a resource, a bank of experiences to draw on for solving tomorrow's problems.
Okay, so this approach has some really huge implications for morality. Because for Dewey, there are no unchanging moral laws handed down from on high. Right and wrong are determined by the situation. The good is simply whatever action effectively resolves the specific moral problem you're facing at that moment. People often get this confused with another philosophy called utilitarianism, but they're actually pretty different.
A utilitarian, for instance, might create a general rule like always tell the truth, because experience has shown that usually leads to the greatest happiness. But for Dewey, there are no general rules. His pragmatism is all about the future. You don't ask what rule to follow. You ask what specific action right now is going to best solve this unique problem, without any preset idea of a single highest good.
So even though Dewey passed away back in the 1950s, his ideas are anything but old news. In fact, his reconstruction of philosophy is still inspiring thinkers who are grappling with the very same kinds of questions we are today. A great example is the philosopher Richard Rorty. He really picked up Dewey's torch, famously arguing that philosophy's job isn't to be a mirror of nature, some perfect reflection of reality. Rorty said that since perfect certainty is basically impossible, the best we can do is just keep the conversation going, a deeply pragmatic idea that has Dewey's fingerprints all over it.
And that kind of leaves us with this final question, doesn't it? In our own time, with rapid technological change, political craziness, and all these complex global challenges, what kind of philosophy do we really need most? One that's searching for timeless, absolute truths, or one that gives us the tools to navigate the chaos and just solve the problems right in front of us? It's the central question Dewey's whole project forces us to ask ourselves.